All right, it is 7 o'clock and I will go ahead and call to order the Wednesday, April 5th meeting of the RE5J Board of Education order. If you would take a moment, silence your cell phones and or pagers and rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jessica, would you please call roll?
Here. Amanda Proctor. Here. Nate Stefano.
Here.
Jeremy Scott.
Here.
Michael Wales.
Here. Before we approve the agenda,
We did move the superintendent contract approval within consent agenda because that is a personnel item.
okay. I'd entertain a motion to amend the agenda as such. So
Second.
I have a motion by Vice President Sassano, a second by Director Proc to amend the agenda as previously described. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We have an amended agenda. Now we need to approve it.
Move to approve as amended.
I'll second it then.
I have a motion by Reverend Scott, a second by Director Parker to approve the agenda as amended. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have that. Do we have any citizen comments on agenda items?
No, we do not.
Okay. Let's move on to staff and student celebrations and recognition.
Well, I have a staff member I'd like to acknowledge tonight, and that is Dr. Rebecca Alt, who recently defended her dissertation and on MTSS in high school. So congratulations to Rebecca on dissertation and her doctorate. And then regarding students, I would like to just mention 11 of our students throughout the district who were awarded a Teen Character Award from the Johnstown Mill Rotary and the Johnstown YMCA. This is their second year of honoring students who nominated from other students or community members for the quality of character that they have. We have one student as young as a 6th grader, Holly, who is a dedicated volunteer, and she is known for her winning smile and including everyone. There were probably 50 nominations this year, quite a few, and so it was difficult for the group to narrow them down. We have Delaney, an 8th grader, who is involved in community activities from food drives to peer tutoring to bullet prevention week. She's a member of the National Honor Society, and Delaney's nominator said she's one of the most kind, respectful, and responsible young people I've ever met. Sean is a sophomore at Civica, and he is student council president, and he established the foundation of this new school. Through his volunteer and leadership, he has supported his school, church, and sports. We also have, is it Malaya? Malaya, who's a senior. She leads through Interact, FBLA, manages the football team, Influence Magazine, and the Johnstown Downtown Developmental Authority as the social media specialist. She's always giving back. We have Yalin, a sophomore, co-vice president of the Interact Club, who won a state FBLA award and represented her high school in the national competition. She's noted for having students accepted and welcome. Her friends, class, and teachers all notice her kindness. Sebastian, a junior, Interact Theater and the Work-Based Learning Program. He's a dedicated leader for Hunger Heroes that provide and impacts food for 100 students in 5J. He's passionate about nonprofit work, and this junior in high school given hours and hours of community service. We have from his nominator, Sebastian has a natural talent for communicating with peers, adult people in positions of leadership. Then there's Tegan, a sophomore, talented student athlete who shares passion for gymnastics with others of all ages and abilities. She influences her in all good ways. She's in gymnastics, track, interact, and FFA. She has inspired us and her teammates to be positive and keep striving. Ika, Tammy, A-I-K. Ika is a senior. She's volunteered more than 150 hours of service through Interact. She's in the top 1% of her class. Gave her an award at Roosevelt for one of the top scholars on the SAT scores. She takes advanced courses from UNC Calculus, Graphic Design, Drawing, and German 3. The Johnstown Milliken community has been impacted by her consistent commitment to community service. Then there's Leo, senior, who's made a dramatic impact in our community. He was nominated by 4 others. He's a leader in National Honor Society, FCA, 3-sport athlete. He's been here to write a few stories about us. Reports, articles, nonfiction, right? He has shown a genuine concern for people. He's also a role model for his 4 siblings after his mother passed away. Ellie, senior. She's a 2-year member of the National Honor Society. She accumulated more than 500 hours of community service. She demonstrated leadership in her position at Shields and as a summer camp counselor at YMCA. She's proven herself to be responsible in both the leader and the learner role. And then we have Alexa, a junior. She's also involved in Interact, which is here to give service to the community. She's on our Building Accountability Committee. She's junior class president in FCA, plays in the orchestra. She's very well-rounded teen in the community and represents the YMCA core values. Why I wanted to share this is just 11 that we honored. And Tammy was able to attend the banquet with me, and it was just heartwarming. And our world, great hands with team.
Awesome. So cool.
That concludes what I have for boys or celebrations tonight.
Any other celebrations? Did our FBLA kids get off okay?
Off okay.
Okay.
I have not heard how things have gone yet today.
Okay.
They're at the Gaylord. They took probably 50 kids, I think, something like that, down to the state competition. So
I got a request to be a state judge, and I was like, oh, again, this is about having vision, because I will say yes to everything. Oh, I have to be here.
I texted her a little while ago to see how it went, and I haven't heard back yet. So
Okay.
I'm assuming that means it went well.
Good.
No news is good news, right?
Didn't we also have a state runner-up or something with the, anyway, I always say them wrong. They won the Pueblo championship at the beginning of the year.
The
And
color guard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Winter Guard. I'm gonna say it wrong. Didn't they have something that they placed in or
Oh, the regional.
Regional.
They're going to state.
next week?
Yeah.
Yes,
Next.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. They should definitely be recognized.
All right, we'll move on to reports and comments from board members.
I do have maybe an invitation to our community in regards to all of our elementary students. April is a wonderful time to work at the library because we have all of the elementary schools bring in their artwork. And there is an art show available for public viewing at the library in Johnstown, which represents KQA, Elwell, Pioneer Ridge Elementary, and Milliken Elementary. And I can only say it transforms the library into, it's already a place, but it is a stunning, beautiful place of beauty to see what these students produce. It's really awe-dropping. So we would definitely encourage the community to come and support our kids. And in addition, our little library here in the town of Milliken, Blooming Littles, which is our preschool age class, has artwork. So you can go to any of the libraries in our community and support our students, and it's amazing the work that they do. amount of time that the teachers and the staff have put into making this happen. So that's a wonderful thing that we have happening in our community.
So I have had the opportunity to do several RHS tours in the last couple of weeks, which is, it's just getting super fun to tour that building. It's been fun the whole time. It's getting super fun now with how much work is getting done and progress is being done. Probably my favorite was the Girl Scout troop that my daughter belongs to, arranged for a tour on Saturday. So it was like, 12, 15 really excited little girls and their parents walking, which was super cool. And they dropped off 20 cases of cookies because the construction crew at RHS was their hometown hero for this year. So they dropped off a bunch of cookies off, which was awesome. But it's so fun to walk through that building. And a number of them were like, oh, I can't wait to go here. Like, oh, how do I get to go here? Because we had several ages, so that was really great. And then, actually, I was reminded of it something during our work set is on this last year, one of the things I did intentionally was try to take some pictures of more interesting places, and then visiting those in the kind of community areas online on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. One, overwhelmingly positive comments about it, which was super nice. But one person's comment, I got me thinking a little bit, that she was commenting on a picture of the plant sciences building or the classroom with the greenhouse out and her in the animal sciences area. And she's like, I'm so glad to see, I'm a zoologist, and I'm glad that this is an opportunity that our kids are going to have. I know we tend to think, I tend to think anyway, when you think of plant and animal sciences, more on the agricultural side of things. But I think what you're recognizing is the appropriateness, the ability of it for kids who might be considering going into biology or might be considering going into, veterinary science or zoology or one of those kind of subjects to get not only the strict science biology classes, but also some hands dirty, let's play with some plants, see if I really like this, opportunities as well. So I know we traditionally think of that area primarily as CT space, but I realize a lot of that stuff is more than just, because even if you were considering a career in engineering or something like that, the construction science is one, especially if you're thinking about doing mechanical engineering or something like that, construction science is valuable in that regard too. So it helped me think about things a little differently. And it was cool that people our own communities looking at it in that way. So.
Okay.
And everybody wants to cook in the culinary arts kitchen. That's the thing, everybody's jealous. Me
That's
too.
an amazing room.
Yeah.
Every school district that we give the tour, they are in awe of that.
Ready to run?
So along those same terms, the Roosevelt tours have been amazing, and it is going to be a really cool building to see when it's all done. I would like to get in and see MES because I think they're going along and nearing completion, kind of, sort of.
We're starting on phase
Stated
3.
phase
I'll tell
three.
you some detail.
I'd like to get in and see that one too because I know Roosevelt is flagship. Everybody wants to see that, but what's happening at MES is just as important. So if we could do a tour of that,
Okay.
at least for us, maybe I'd like to get in there and see that one.
Yes, please.
Sometime. So.
Okay.
I don't have anything. I'm out of town. So I don't have anything.
That happens. Micah?
I think I shared my good news.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can say one thing about our fire department and our junior firefighters is they must do a really good job because I went to go watch them do a training last week and I sat outside the training center for 45 minutes and saw a thing, and the whole time they were in there burning stuff and poking stuff out, and they did it so well I had no idea it was even happening. So kudos to all of them. We all got to participate. I've gone to the event multiple years. I've never been able to participate as a judge, but participate in the cook-off that Sodexo does for elementary school kids, and hats off to them. A big applause to Sodexo for organizing that event and just making that a special day for those kids. As I talked to people in the community about it, they said, we're technically not offering any of the culinary arts stuff to our students at that level, but we're identifying that as a passion and providing some resources for them to be able to expand. And it was a lot of fun. It was really good too.
Did
And
they
I-
do all that cooking?
And I know,
Right there,
and we
yeah.
saw it, and actually the young lady that took first place, she had a choice of either a bike or a Fitbit. And so she picked something, and then the second place was a set of pans. And so the first place person talked to the second place person because she wanted those pots and pans, and they made a trade. So we know cooking is in her future.
But yeah, they prepared the meals right there. They had all their ingredients, and that was the competition was they had to go prepare it. And as judges, we had to look at, is this something that a lot of kids can do? Is it a simple recipe? So yeah, it was really fun. Like I said, I've gone and watched it years past. I've never got it yet.
Were you harsh judges, like on the British Bake Off, or
No.
were you lenient?
Get our Gordon Ramsay on.
If you want to look at my scorecard, it was much everybody got the same score.
Did they put case on or not?
So here's the thing. So 3 years ago, I went to watch it. It was at MES, and it was all about grilling. And this kid did a taco hot dog, and I was dying because it looked so delicious, and I could not eat it. I didn't get a chance to eat it. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. I'm glad that Sodexo does that. I think just a great opportunity for our kids. I did have a CASB legislative meeting. Nothing really exciting there. I did go to the Veterans Memorial unveiling that we had. And it was interesting because when I got there, I stepped into the parking lot and a woman stepped right up next to me, and then I turned and I looked, and it was Senator Barb Kirkmeyer, and we know each other from our previous lives. And so we got to talking, and she told me, we are going to pay off the budget stabilization, the BS factor this year. She said the state has the money and we are going to do it.
Wow.
And I know there's a lot of people who are saying, no, you're not, but a lot of people don't know Barb Kirkmeyer. Kirkmeyer, well, hopefully she's gonna do it. Hopefully they'll do it. And it's a bipartisan bill. So there is a real chance that we may actually start seeing funding where it's supposed to be. We're not gonna get the retroactive
I
pay,
was just gonna ask.
but we should start seeing what we should be getting. I finally got to attend a rural board member roundtable, which was really good. And you guys, I think at CASB, you've seen Michelle Murphy talk. She's kind of an intense character to be around. But it was really good listening to the things she had to say. They talked a lot about, some of the bills in the legislature right now and especially around funding, because that's what they're a big advocate for, is for, school districts our size and a little bigger, some extra funding. But that was a good conversation. If you guys get an opportunity, I think CASB will put out those reminders of when those are. It's kind of a fun session to sit in. It's a big conversation this week was about how do you define director-dis? And I was the only one who could actually give any insight. It's just, well, we just got done redrawing our boundaries. And like I said, we did it all based off the populated district, so that each one of us is pretty much representing an equal number of taxpayers in the district. And I think I probably got Shannon some new jobs. I said, here's the guy we used to figure all that. I did do the tour this past week at Rosa with some community members. One of those community members was and is, I say was and is, was a very large commercial property owner in Johnstown, still owns a lot of commercial property in Johnstown. And that person was, I was a little nervous because I thought I was going to hear a lot about, you have killed me with taxes, you've killed me with taxes, you've killed me with taxes. The only negative thing they were confused about some of the choices in the locker rooms. Otherwise,
The lights weren't on in the locker.
otherwise just so excited about, again, the opportunities that building's going to afford our students. And so I put that in the win column that was a.
Yep, I'll bring that up because the Eaton superintendent liked the colors in the
I
line.
bet he did. So, I have to look at my calendar, that's how I can work, but I have to report, I think that's it for me. Let's go to anything else. We'll move on to the report from the superintendent's office.
Okay. President Wales and board directors, tonight I want to talk, actually I'm going to let Michael Evers is going to talk details about healthy school meals for all. Then I'm going to give some facility updates. And then Mrs. Kramer is going to talk about an MOU update that we have on kindergarten readiness and kindergarten entrance date. And so healthy school meals for all. Michael Evers. Let's hear the details because you know there's going to be money involved with this presentation.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Trussler. Good evening, President Wales, members of the Board of Education. Tonight, I'd like to talk with you briefly about the new Healthy School Meals for All program. And this program came into being with the passage of the Proposition SF this past November's general election. What this program does is it's a reimbursement to districts for student meals that otherwise would be charged to the family. So this would basically be our paid families that pay for meals. This doesn't include our reimbursable meals from the National School Lunch Program. Those will be reimbursed through the federal grants that we get. This program only applies to students' reimbursable meal. It doesn't apply to any seconds or it's just the reimbursable meal. And that this part of the program comes into effect next school year in 23-24. In the following year, in 24-25, this program will be rolling out funding to purchase local food from Colorado ranchers and farmers. And then there's also going to be a program to fund increased wages or stipends to food service staff to prepare and serve meals. So those two things will be coming in 24-25. We go to the second page. So if you can imagine, there's a number of advantages to this program. This should eliminate, starting next year, unpaid meal debt for our standard reimbursable meals. And again, extra helpings, a la carte items don't apply to this. In order for students to get additional helping or a la carte items, they need to have money in their account, and they need to ask ahead of time before they go through the line again, or if they're on that a la carte, they look up before they give the child any a la carte items, so they have money in their account to pay. So this will help us our unpaid meal. This will help not grow our unpaid meal balances going forward next year. Additionally, this program promotes equity and reduces stigma of school meals, and it'll increase the number of students who eat breakfast and lunch each day with our program, which we definitely saw that the prior 2 years with the various panic funding, where essentially the program was in effect, where everyone got a free reimbursable meal. Moving on to the next slide, we are going to be communicating to our families about this program. We are going to start our communications at the end of this school year, and the reason for that is to avoid any confusion, because if we sent out communications now, people might just reply, no cost, meals, and then not reading down that it doesn't start until next year. So we'll start doing that right at the end of this school year. We'll do emails to families, Facebook posts, those types of communications. The district will still be encouraging families to fill out free and reduced meal applications for next year and and going forward in order to maximize the federal reimbursement that we get from the feds. That will help Colorado program or federal money that comes in, the less Colorado money needs to support this program. Communications for reduced meal applications will start in July. And there are some incentives, even though, you know, they'll no longer, you know, since everyone will get a free reimbursed meal. But there are still other incentives for families to apply, things such as waived academic fees, which is definitely a big thing for families who have high school students. And then also, there's different community organizations that have reduced rates for their services if a family is on qualifies for free reduced, so organizations such as TRPR. And then the last slide. So participation in the Healthy School Meals for All program doesn't require board action in order for the district to participate. The district administration would like to know if the board has any feedback on this before we move forward with it. This concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions the board may have.
Two questions. Well, one question and one comment. I remember Mr. Everson and I talked about this at one point. The funding source that this is tied to. There was a little bit of concern that, you know, about whether the funding source that the state has that this is tied to is actually going to be adequate by the funding. And I think they started collections on that this year. So they get a year ahead. Does this ring a bell?
I think you might be conflating this with the universal pre-K.
Well, I was trying to straighten it out in my head.
Okay.
Because I might be.
So the universal pre-K program,
Yeah.
that's the concern that.
So what's the funding source for this for the state?
This is really just, it's kind of
General
listed
fund.
It's general fund. Okay, so we're not worried about the fund.
No,
Other
no,
than-
and one of the ways that the state is hopeful, you know, to make this more affordable for the state is they did apply for another waiver with the federal government to allow. So with our X certification process, that's where we just take, you know, the list of our families and we the state, you know, tells us, you know, who's on different types of programs, like, you know, foster children, types of programs that they just automatically qualify for. That's direct certificate. What's going to be added to that is Medicaid families. And the state is hoping that with the addition of Medicaid families, that's going to increase the pool of our direct certification families where then those will become reimbursable from the federal government.
It wasn't already?
No, it's not. I mean, it's the SNAP program, it's foster children. There's a couple different categories of families that would qualify for direct certification. And if you're directly certified, you don't fill out an application.
Well, I will just say for my 2 cents, I'm very, very excited about it. I am not a letter writer, because usually that's just shouting into the wind, but when the Department of Ag quietly pulled their funding for Universal over the summer when nobody was paying attention, lots of people got letters from me. Did I hear anything back? No, but I felt better. Because I thought that was horrible, that we were taking away it all. So I'm glad the state of Colorado stepped up.
I just had one question is, with the standard reimbursable mill, will the students know what mill that applies to? I guess I could see their confusion having kids go to the a la carte line and thinking, well, this is paid for.
They'll be instructed.
Okay.
I know, but basically the reimbursable meal, that's where you go through the line the first time.
Right.
And then our food service staff, you know, you only get a reimbursable meal go through the first time. I think really the only place we have a la carte is the high school. So at our current high school, it's kind of a separate booth area where the a la carte is, and at the new high school, it's the same situation where it's separate, completely separate from the lunch line. So yeah, they'll know.
Okay.
That was going to be my same question, because when we talked to the PTO
Yes.
groups,
Yeah.
it was funny because this one lady
That was
said,
fun.
we pack our daughter's lunch, but at the end of the month, we get this bill because she goes and gets some milk.
Yeah.
And so they charge the milk. And so I suppose the milk would fall in. I mean, if that's all she took, that would be
Yeah.
the reimbursable part, right?
No, they would need to get the full
Well,
reimbursement.
Just the milk.
Oh,
would be
that's-
a la
So the
carte.
milk would be an a la carte
Okay, yeah.
item in that.
Okay.
So she gets 2 lunches. The
Right.
home packed meal and
Right.
then the reimbursable with the milk.
Why are my children?
Somebody's good at it. I know they will.
So, just an anecdote, Mrs. Hillebrandt, our National School Lunch Program Coordinator, has told me stories about, being in line, with their lunchbox, in one hand, and then they get a school meal in the other hand, and then there becomes confusion at home as to, well, why are we being charged for school lunches? Because I send you with a lunch.
Yeah, no, we heard that too.
Been there.
Yeah. Especially during COVID, when there was no charge for breakfast or lunch. I know my youngest would leave home with breakfast in her stomach, go to school and eat breakfast at school, and then get school lunch too. So as long as there's some education around what is happening and what
Okay.
needs to happen, I think this is a great program. I don't see any reason we wouldn't.
And we'll reinforce this with Sodexo and also with our school principals. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last week was spring break in the snowstorm. And yet here at 5J, we were busy in all of our facilities with different activities going on. Out at Pine Ridge, you should go out there and see their shiny floor. They did a lot of work on that, waxing the floor, and also they still are they did some testing and worked at the automation of the HVAC system. If we go to Elwell, they're still working on some punch list items, and we're working with also looking at items such as one of the items is on the flooring upstairs where the Norfolk was some staining. And so they've worked really hard on trying to remove the stain, and we've got one area down on 2nd grade that we're calling this is our good to go, and so working to make sure that we can get the floors that are acceptable to the district so that we can move forward on that. Hopefully they will be able to get the staining out. Have you been by Letford? You know that Letford just does not want to go down. During spring vacation, you'll notice you've got some zipped up areas again because in the digging they found some pipes that are asbestos filled. So another little obstacle and another mitigation that we're working with. Roosevelt, however, also had a week in order to begin some middle school renovations where they were doing some asbestos testing and also removal of tile. So that even though we have a year and a half for the changes, the renovation, it's all encompassing and it's comprehensive. So we were able to do a little bit there as well. I need you to come see Milliken Elementary. They are on phase 3. And when I was there last week, there was a lot of loud banging. They were so proud they were ahead of the demolition part. And it was noisy and it was dusty and it was dirty. They have now, the front of the school is where Mr. Schlegel's room was.
It's okay.
Okay. He goes by both with me. Anyway, it's at that first room on the northwest end, and they blocked off the entrance because they're renovating the core of the building now, which means another, it's another path to go around and see some of the construction going on. And also the hall, the corridor is near finished that ties the two buildings, the early childhood building and the main building together. It is exquisite. Oh, and put the finishing touches on the offices, and we'll definitely bring the 2 separate buildings as one building. Exciting. Moving forward, and the kids are excited.
That's Sampson at
That's
MES,
right.
Okay.
Sampson's doing that one. And then I've talked about all of them. Middle school, had a good discussion today at lunchtime talking about next steps for middle school. When our middle schoolers move into RMS in January 25, then we will be then planning now as with growth, what we will be doing with that building and what needs to be done. Any questions on any of the facilities, or we'll get you in there.
Yeah, I would like to see MES soon
Okay.
with PRE, and we can take this offline if we need to. Did they finding with the smoke test? Did they figure out?
It all passed, and I had a nice note on it, so.
Okay, just
Okay.
curious.
I'll follow up with details I'll ask for something more comprehensive. I would like Mrs. Kramer to give you an up on an exciting meeting she had Monday.
Exciting.
It was exciting. I wish I'd been there.
Good evening, President Wills, members of the board, and Superintendent Kessler. As you know, negotiations process is underway, and part of that process is revisiting some MOUs that had been developed quite a while back. Just making sure that we're fulfilling those MOUs. And one of those was about the kindergarten start date and kindergarten readiness. And when that was discussed a few years ago, there was a committee that was formed that then talked about what could be done to help our kids be more ready for kindergarten. And at that time, they had determined that the kindergarten start date needed to stay where it was, and it really about communication with families and preschools around the area and things like that to prepare our kids. And so some time passed with COVID and things like that, and that committee disbanded, things changed. And so that MOU had not been revisited since 2019 or so. So we got a group together based on that negotiations. So we included principals, instructional coaches, reading interventionists, pre-K, kindergarten, first grade teachers from our elementary schools. We invited all of them. Most of them came, and they were in 4 different groups to discuss a variety of things. But the first point was to communicate about where we are with the kindergarten start date. And so Shannon Gauna, our preschool director, talked about universal preschool and the importance of having the start date be October 1st, which is kids need to be 5 on or before October 1st. And that is tied to universal preschool well. If we change the start date for kindergarten, then we are unable to get all the funding available for universal preschool. So Shannon, our preschool director, that we then talked about what can we do, what do we need to do as educators to help our community know that our kids are ready for kindergarten. And so the teams of each team discussed a few different ideas. They talked about what works best for instruction for them, and that was great sharing because we're trying to align and really looking at our pre-K, going into kindergarten, going into first grade, what we do for our youngest learners. And then it had great discussion about how we can get information out to our families. One of the ideas that was talked about previously in that committee was a brochure that talks about kind of what's needed. And so we pulled out that brochure, teams looked at that brochure, but then there was a great one that one of our team members had gotten at YMCA that's from Larimer County. And it was much more user-friendly for families, so it has the I can sense for kids, and then what activities you can do to meet that I can statement that are all aligned to our standards. So that that meeting was really good discussion, and great ideas for engaging our community to prepare our kids. So that was what was on Monday. And we have many other MOUs we're addressing, but that was one that was done that night.
That because of COVID kind of got slid under the radar, but perfect timing with universal preschool to review it, discuss why we have an October 1 date and how we're going to prepare for kids that come to school and to meet their needs. So thank you.
So we're not changing the date, just to be clear.
Correct.
And does that MOU die? Because it sounds like you,
That's a great way.
right?
To
Like
say
it kind of sounds like we met that.
Agreed.
We've agreed, but we will meet
We need to officially.
next week. We will meet with JMEA negotiations to go over that to see if they agree.
And the hope is that not necessarily that it will, but that there would be a
Will
statement
be met.
added there that we have met that MOU You know,
I
if
should
that's
say,
something-
instead of agreement, that we've reached the understanding.
There you go. This understanding has been met.
So we're not changing them, that's fine, but what was the ask? Was it to move it sooner in the year or later in the year?
So a few years ago, the concern that was being shared by early educators was that kids were coming to school 4 years old. Not a lot, but
Yeah.
some kids coming in as 4-year-olds.
Right.
And there was a concern that they were too young to be ready for kindergarten. We have had changes since then, and one of those changes is full day kindergarten. So that had a difference. We also, when you look at kids when they come in, you have many 4-year-olds that are very ready and, you know, do a great job. Then you have others that aren't. You also have, you know, 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds that come in are not as ready as some of the younger ones. But at the time, it was the concern that they were coming in too young. And so then it was good discussion about, is it really that they're too young, or are they just not prepared? Because some families may not what they need to do to help their kids be ready.
Okay, thank you.
What is our current age cutoff for kindergarten? What's the date for the age cutoff? Is it October?
October 1.
October 1?
Yeah.
There it is.
And any other questions?
Well, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I'm just curious, with the delay in the universal pre-K matching, is that impacting us in any way, or?
Everyone wonders. We think that we will be okay this first year. And then,
Well, when we got our initial thing, we were full.
That's-
and we haven't, did you hear from Ms. Gowner
We
today?
don't know yet, but
Okay.
that is our.
Okay, well, I mean, we should have gotten ours, it's they just haven't finalized to send it to parents yet.
As the change to the April 26th date. Is that-
Well, I mean, providers should have gotten theirs a couple of weeks ago for their initial review to accept or reject. So did we have a full house in that one?
I am not aware of that.
Okay,
What
yeah,
came
so
from that.
providers got it 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago, up now, of the list of their initial matches to see, because providers first get to accept, reject, and then it's the parent rollout that got delayed.
I thought I-
Because there was some concern on behalf of providers that they didn't get who they were expecting to get on their lists. So I mean, we
Yes.
should have gotten a list of who we were matched with
We
initially.
did, and I know the concern is how many slots we have for, with individual education plans, 3-year-olds. And that we have to be very careful with that.
Okay. So I know we got additional 4-year-old slots, so I was just wondering if we got them all filled.
Okay. We'll keep you up to date as we get more information. And that concludes the superintendent report.
All right, any questions for Superintendent Trista? All right, we will move on to the consent agenda. Oh, yeah, geez. I don't have my, I don't even have my spiel. There we go. Thank you, sir. That's why you're agreed.
Get right away. There you go.
Great.
So our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. So the items listed under the consent agenda have gone through board review and recommendation. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Any of them can be removed from the consent agenda by the request of a board member. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
I would like to request to remove the final superintendent contract for individual consideration.
Okay. I have a motion by Reverend Scott to remove the superintendent contract for consideration.
Actually, any one of us can just do it.
What?
By the rule, any one member can move something for consideration, doesn't require a vote.
Okay.
So it's done.
I was just stating for the record.
Oh.
Are you okay with me doing that? Okay. All right. I'd entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Move that we approve the consent agenda minus the removal.
I'll second.
We have by Vice President Sassano, second by Director Johnson to approve the consent agenda minus the superintendent contract. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Jessica, would you please pull the board?
Monica Johnson,
Yes.
Amanda Proctor,
Yes.
Nate Fasano,
Yes.
Jeremy Scott,
Yes.
Michael Witt.
Yes. So now we'll move on to the superintendent contract. Entertain a motion to approve that.
I move to approve the superintendent.
We have a motion by Reverend Scott, a second by Vice President Sassano to approve the finalized superintendent contract. Any discussion?
Well, the reason I wanted to do it separately is I really hope we're not doing this again for another like decade. And I felt it just deserved the time and the energy, given how much time and energy we're getting us to this point, which is this because we're finally hitting the finish line on this, and we're talking about dozens of people and hundreds of hours that went into this process. And the product of the process, I could not be more excited about, maybe other than one small exception. But I wanted to give it the time and the individual consideration I think it deserves, given how much time and energy went into it. And I want to thank our community for being a part of it and all the work that was put in. Ms. Pressler, giving all of your hard work, Jessica, all your hard work. This is no small thing for our district, and will hopefully make a big impact. Time to come.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Jessica, would you please pull the board?
Monica Johnson,
Yes.
Amanda Proctor,
Yes.
Nate Fasano,
Yes.
Jeremy Scott,
Yes.
Michael Witt.
Yes. Well, now we got to get him to sign it.
He's not leaving without.
That can be done.
We'll move on to does anybody need a break? Let's move on to our old business. We have policy amendments to EBCE, school closings and cancellations.
And I presented this at our last meeting, President Wales, and it deals with adding delay the start of school for students because of inclement weather, particularly during the spring storms that we didn't have to worry about it last Monday or a week ago. This will give our school students, particularly in high school that start so soon, time for the roads to warm up a little bit, time for road crews to get out, also time for us to go out parking lots and sidewalks. We have not had any questions, comments, concerns about this, and so I'm bringing it forward to you to have that as another option when we need to close a school, that we delay the start, and we're thinking the average would be 90 minutes. And so principals have prepared schedule for 90 minutes. Everybody would come 90 minutes later, with the exception of some essential staff to make sure we have a couple at each building and people who are on crews that need to make sure that our building's cleaned up. So bring it ready for approval.
All right, yes, policy has gone through the necessary reading phase. First reading, this is the second reading, which we can't take action on this evening.
Motion to introduce amendments to board policy EBCE. No, I'm on the wrong one, aren't I?
You're on
Oh
the
my
wrong.
gosh. It says to schedule the final reading on the list. I'm going to motion to, why does it say that? The written motion, isn't it written weird?
Yeah,
It
it
is.
is.
You
Ugh.
need to say.
I'm going to motion to approve the
There you go.
amendments to policy CE.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Director Proctor, second by Vice President Sassano to approve the amendments to policy EBCE. Is there any discussion?
I am sorry, I can't like read a motion properly.
You're reading what's
No,
there.
I shouldn't have read it. I should have just said it. Usually I get screwed up read it. I should have said it.
Only feedback I heard was, yay, I'm glad to have it.
Yeah, that's all right.
Only personal concern is that we're tempting fate, so when it snows next week, it'll.
Or we
Not gonna
pass
snow.
this and then it won't snow.
Thank
So
you. Thank
Right,
you.
we're
we're gonna
ready.
go for that one.
I like that
That's
one
right.
better.
That's probably more likely.
My trees are starting to
Yes.
bud, my peach tree's starting to bud out.
I know, with my lilacs.
Oh.
They're coming.
All right. Hearing none, Jessica, would you pull the board?
Monica Johnson,
Yes.
Amanda Proctor.
Yes.
Nate Fasano,
Yes.
Jeremy Scott,
Yes.
Michael Wales.
Yes. We'll move into our new business, new business. I can't even read simple. Two letter, double syllable words here. Our first item under new business is our amendments to IHCBA.
And this has to do with concurrent enrollment, President Wales and members of the board. And this is, we have had concurrent enrollment for many years. And in our policy, we have said that we will pay for the district or for the students' college level course. And as long as they pass the class, the district will pay. If they don't pass the class, the student and family would reimburse. And that was an incentive to be careful about signing up for any class and making sure you're going to follow through on it. However, throughout the state, they have discovered that sometimes keeps kids from wanting to take the class in fear they won't pass. And so this was momentum to change this, that we will not only, that part has been taken out, but also to work with the agreements that we have with Ames and UNC, our current partners, that how we work together to help kids succeed, make sure that they're ready for the college level classes so that they will be successful. So this is wording that has changed in order to comply with statute from last summer. And as we start CTE meeting, don't ask me for the numbers, but we have quite a few who have are taking college classes here.
So is there a penalty? Is that a good word if the student doesn't pass, or is penalty phase is being taken out? Is that correct?
The financial penalty phase is taken out.
Okay,
The grade of not passing is the penalty.
got it. Good clarification.
So I may have in the past used the financial penalty to help motivate a student that lives in my house, told him he was going to have to pay it. But
You know, the school
I'm
district,
very supportive.
yeah, the school district does take donations.
Yeah.
100%.
He's doing it. Cool.
Okay.
No, anything that encourages to do it. And I did actually kind of wondered about that too, because for us, we're blessed in such ways, wouldn't be a hardship, but there's folks who it would. And that may cause them things twice. So I think that's actually a good option.
So,
So this, we're not going to vote on this tonight,
Right.
but this, and we'll find out if we have any questions or concerns.
So how would that, if we're using the grade, so could there be a loss of credit then?
They would not get the credit, correct?
Okay.
Is there a cap on the number of classes? Because isn't now, and maybe it's been a few years since I've had a kid in high school, but isn't there now a cap of classes that
I
they
don't
can
think
enroll
so.
in at any time? I thought there was a cap per year or semester of how many college classes you could take. So with,
But I
there-
don't know the number.
Well,
Okay,
we'll find
would
out
that
and get
cap-
back to you on it.
would that cap be in the policy, or would we just?
That would be a practice, that's not in a
Okay.
policy.
Because that would be a financial, right? You could guesstimate
It would.
a ratio so that you could have like an allowance for failure or something. Allowance for doubtful accounts. Well, or, then it's a bit kind of thing, but that's putting that in the atmosphere. That's wrong.
So as previously discussed, so this will be this is our first reading on this one. This does have the possibility of coming before the board on April 19th.
Yes, and we can
For
bring
approval.
answers to your questions.
So it's open to the public at this point now to review it, provide feedback. If there is any feedback, they should do it through listen@wellbar5j.org.
You ready to hear about KEC, Public Concerns Complaint about Instructional Resources? We've been working on this policy for several months now. Mrs. Kramer, principals from our buildings and also including Kate Bay, about how we can improve this policy to meet needs of our students and our public And particularly with a timeline that was a concern that was brought up that we saw that could be improved. So Mrs. Kramer, do you want to add any highlights to this? Any?
Sure. So, again, this is a policy that's being brought forward this evening, partially in response to a community member who had asked about the timeline for this process. This policy outlines very nicely what the process will be to follow, and then also how much time it will take for each step in the process. And it specifically outlines where to start when you have a complaint, where it starts building, and then goes from that level to a building team. If the principal has a conversation with the family and the family still wants to push their concerns forward, there's a building level review, and then it goes to a diff level, and then on up. So, and then eventually it would come to your level if that was necessary. But it's very specific, outlined those steps as well as the time frame for each step in the process. And so it's a complete change to our previous policy.
We
to
think
be very
yeah.
specific.
This is an improvement as to the procedure, but also to the public's, what we want to hear from the public as what we can do to improve what we're doing, but also to listen to concerns and see where we need to make changes. So we will have this out for the next couple of weeks and see what we hear. And for the most part, when Mrs. Kramer and I were reviewing this, what we like about this is most issues are solved at the classroom level or school level. And every teacher, I shouldn't say every, but most teachers, if a parent has a concern about a particular book, particular activity, the teacher will find an alternative for the child.
And that's the important first step of this whole process, is that we all recognize that parents have a choice in that matter. And so if there are materials that they don't want their child to be exposed to, they can start at that level and that child can be offered an alternative or, alternative reading assignment, that sort of thing, depending on the situation. So that's really where it starts. But then this policy starts there and then really outlines each step that will happen throughout the process of the meeting.
So I meant to send you an email about this, and I am realizing I forgot. It's a very editorial thing. But third paragraph, second page, there's a sentence in the first sentence after the comma, it says he may appeal to the superintendent. I probably need like they.
Okay, thank you.
And I think it says he throughout, actually. I noticed that as well.
Oh, okay. That's the one place I caught it.
Yeah.
Anyway. But so okay, that was my other question too.
Yeah.
Is along with this, would it be prudent to develop, or maybe we already have some educational materials for parents who are concerned about what is available to them before we even arrive at the process? I mean, we know that parents have a right to opt out, and maybe more engaged parents maybe know that, but I'm not sure the general parents know all options they have. So do we have any material that would explain that? If a parent came in concerned about a specific thing, do we have something to hand to them and say, well, here are your options without even going through the complaint process? You can opt your child out, you can apply separate, this is how you would do it. But sometimes I think parents get frustrated because they don't know what to do. So I don't need that. That doesn't really need to be a policy necessarily, but maybe just something that educates the parents if they do have a concern about what, even before we get complaint stage, that they know what they can, as far as, okay, well, tell your teacher you don't want.
So like in the student handbook, if it were to do an overview on the curriculum as to what's
somebody
available.
can just point somebody and say, here's what you can do, and then so that way they can look at that maybe less passion time and go, okay, well, I'll just do this instead. I mean, it keeps things out of the complaint process. Is a good
Teachers frequently will share, this is what we're doing. and that out to parents. And if parents are concerned or have a question, they usually will respond with an email to the teacher, but we need to follow up and find out how often that happens to be ready.
That may happen more frequently in elementary levels, just like there's usually more frequent communication at the
Mhm.
elementary level than at the high school level. And part of that is getting young adults to walk into that process of being adult. But at the same token, I don't think I ever received an email about my kid's English class in 4 years about what they were reading. Unless she had a discussion with her, unless she shared that with me.
Unless
you
you
know.
asked your daughter and.
Yeah, like and cried out of her. So
Yeah.
that be a concern as the age, right? There's different
Mhm.
concerns with that. Is that if there is a novel they're reading as a high schooler that may have something in
Mhm.
there, a parent may not know till it's, in their opinion, too late. Their child's been exposed because those teachers. I've never seen a teacher at RHS share a list of these are the novels we're reading this year. It's always been like my kid being like, oh, there was this funny section on this book. So that also leans into parents knowing there's a choice, is them being aware and involved early on so that they have a chance to communicate with the teacher.
Well,
I
one
could
of
be
the-
wrong, but I just never experienced that in my
Well,
kid's
I
high
got
school career.
One of the places you can is an infinite campus. You can see what the assignments are in
Oh, we get there?
I don't know
Because
if you can. see
I've
it
never seen like
before
future assignments. I've seen it when it's assigned.
assigned.
Oh, I might, okay, good point.
Because like if they're reading a book and there's you'll see that, but it's not like next week we're starting XYZ book.
Yeah.
She's just so glad my stuff is on.
I mean, me too, right? But I'm just trying to like if I try to put myself in a concerned
Yeah.
parent's shoes.
So if the teacher were to send home basically a list of what they'll be covering, a syllabus of what we covered that semester, that quarter, and then the parent can look at it and
Make a decision.
make a decision.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we're already signing the syllabus at a high school level. The kids have to sign it. We have to sign their syllabus. So maybe that could be included.
So it hasn't been included, these are the reading this
I
semester?
don't remember ever saying that.
I don't remember seeing it
It's been,
either.
it's
Not
been a minute since I've been in
Yeah.
high school, but
It's a good discussion. It's outside of the realm of
Yes.
I
this
agree.
discussion.
yeah.
Because I don't know that we could cover
bring us back.
everything, but
I think it's more of a practice type thing.
yeah, and I think it's, and especially when we get to when we start talking about student handbooks a little later in the spring, that's maybe something we ask them if there's a way that we can, if they can incorporate the syllabus somehow, and that parents, especially at the intermediate and high school level, that they would have an expectation that they would see that.
Well, I guess it'd fall under the preventative, so it wouldn't have to get to the level where
Oh.
there was a formal complaint where,
Yeah, you're right. It would be prevent
yeah.
of getting it dealt with at the teacher level first.
And that's what I like about the policy, is that we keep it at the lowest level possible, right? We keep it as easy as we can. I guess the concern that I have is, I've seen the news recently, and people are bringing lots of stuff to school boards, skipping over the teacher and the principal and whoever else, right? So I think something might be helpful to have something to hand to a parent that says, have you taken this to your teacher? You talk to your child's principal before they come to us with complaints. And they're entitled to do that. They're entitled to come to us with complaints, but we want to make sure there's a process they're following.
Yeah, I understand.
Even if they come to us first, that there's a process we bring them back to, so that we can resolve it at the lowest level.
And that's where it can be resolved
Right.
the easiest
Right.
through this process.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're not going to necessarily take care of whatever the situation will be. It will be dealt with either by the teacher or principal at the building level.
And I do like that, and I do like enshrining that in policy. It goes, hey, actually, we're the final court of appeals, we're not the place you go, right? I mean, there's a whole thing here, so. And I think the addition of timelines makes sense. I think, you know, you help set expectations for person when they can expect. I mean, nobody likes to feel ignored.
So we'll let you know at our next meeting. Other comments or feedback you have for this?
And we'll see both of these new policies at our next meeting, the
Yes.
second reading. Okay.
I think you did good work.
Yeah, I think it's very sensical. It just makes sense to start at level, and it's good. Anytime we can employ common sense, it's a good thing. So yeah, good work.
Okay, do we have any citizen comments on general topics?
No, we do not.
All right. Are there any other items deemed necessary by the board?